Hi everyone, Monique runs Proof Mango and helps course creators find content or tech glitches in their course that keep students from having a great learning experience. Monique's superpower is finding errors in content or user experience that most people miss. Welcome, Monique.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this. And we're going to be talking about a cool marketing hack that you did for Amy Porterfield recently, which I thought was amazing, as well as how you've grown your business with content. But first, let's just start here. Can you briefly describe and share the story behind how you started Proof Mango?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, it's a funny story. It kind of started on the way coming back from Vegas, on a road trip coming back from Vegas. I live in Los Angeles. And I was coming back from Vegas, and at the time I was doing virtual assistants for a course creator. And I had helped him with numerous things in his course, and he had asked me, he sent me a text message on the way back from Vegas, and he's like, do you mind proofreading my course content? And I have a background in proofreading and writing. And so when he said that, I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing, because I had taken so many online courses and I was already doing virtual assistants for online courses. And I loved it because online courses are so exciting because you learn so much through them. And when he said that, I was like, you know what? I really feel like I want to take my background in proofreading and writing and virtual assistants in general and just really help course creators find those like tech or content errors in their courses. So that's kind of where I had the idea for Proof Mango, which is a testing service for online courses to make sure that there's no content or tech errors in the course. And so that's kind of how it started. And that's really that excitement that I had from that day one still is with me today. So that's really exciting.
So give us an idea, how many courses have you worked with, and over what time frame are we talking about?
I would say I right now I do maybe like 2 to 5 courses per month. I'm hoping to scale that up at some point. I started, that was back in 2017, and I really didn't start noticing an uptick in my business until I want to say end of 2018, early 2019. So basically when I got started, I had no idea what to do. I knew I wanted this service, but I had like all kinds of other stuff going on. I was doing virtual assistants. I was still working at my full-time job in online advertising. I was like, I have this idea, but I wasn't sure really how to get it started. And what really helped me was SEO, which is, I know, something that you're really a big fan of. But I would say really it was like just the fact that I was already a writer. And to get started, I really just took what I knew about writing, really wanted to use that as my lead generator and use SEO to bring the people to my website. And then from there, that's allowed me to really get the clients that I have, because other than that, I don't know really what would be the best marketing tactic for me. I feel like you always have to do what's best for you. And writing to me was the best way that I could speak to people. And I really just focused on that.
So we're gonna drill into like the marketing aspect a bit more, but I'm really interested in how you help course creators. As you know, we launched our own online training program called Influential Brand Accelerator, and that's something we're growing. And what I'm really interested to hear is, just from your experience working across a number of courses, what are some common things that you find as like being that mistakes or common issues that stop people from or stop students from finishing and following through on the course?
Well, the thing is, nowadays, I feel like courses are something so many people are doing. And there's a lot of people out there saying that courses are really easy to make, teach what you know and get it out there and, make 6 figures. And I think that's wonderful. But the problem is you have a lot of people creating online courses who maybe don't necessarily have any kind of teaching background, and not that you need one, but they don't really think about all that goes into actually helping someone learn something. So they put together this course based off of their knowledge, and then they're hoping that people will just make their way through it and get the content and understand it, because they're focusing on And
Sorry,
I
you
feel
just,
like,
for the last 5 seconds, you just cut out. Just say that last bit
oh
again.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, I saw myself cut out a little bit. I was gonna say, course creators tend to really focus on the tech, getting the tech right and the marketing right, and not necessarily focusing on the content. And what I see is exactly that when I go into an online course. I feel like there's not a lot of care given to making sure that the student actually learns. I think the intent is there, but sometimes students won't, course creators won't necessarily explain it in a way where you get it, or they won't offer the supporting materials that allow students to really understand the content. They won't allow you to listen to it in different mediums, like they'll put a video and then a checklist at the end of the module, and that's it. You know, I just feel a lot of times with courses, it lacks structure and support mainly. Those are the two. And of course, there's, you know, content errors here and there, you know, like inconsistencies in grammar and things like that. That's easy to fix, and that's something a lot of people struggle with. So that's not a huge issue. I see that in every course. But I would say really it's just thinking about the student and making sure that they actually are learning, you know.
And that makes sense. I guess what I'm thinking is, how do you take that and distill it into something like, you know, someone that's watching this interview, where they can take action themselves. So you talk about structure. I'm a big fan of structure. Like, I personally cannot think about a problem or how to solve a problem unless I've structured the way that problem even exists, and then structure the approach and all of those things. So I'm a very big fan of structure, to the point where I'm obsessed by folders in Google Drive and making sure things are organized. So how does someone who's planning to create a course or looking to revamp an existing course, how do they think about structure? What can you share any kind of deeper down tips?
Yes, I would say, so I'll just share with you some tips on content, course content structure, which is what I recommend. When you're maybe, like, let's say you're creating your course and you're doing your brain dump of content, I always think it's really important to get the content out, get it all out on Post-its or in Trello or wherever you want. And then when you refine it, put it into a structure. And the structure that I like to follow is, I like to obviously segment everything in steps. So you have like your big steps to get someone from point A to point B. So you have the big modules. So you'll have I would say, start with the welcome section. Always have a welcome section in your course. Then you have the big rocks, the big modules. And then of course you have your lessons underneath it, and then your supporting documents. But even further, there's a lesson structure that I always like to kind of offer to help, because sometimes when people put their content in lessons, they are just like, okay, this is kind of what you need to know. This is how you do it. Good luck. In lesson, I really think it's important for every lesson where you're saying, by the end of this lesson, this is what you're going to learn, and here's why it's really important. And if you start that way people know, okay, this is what I'm going to be able to do by the end of this lesson, and this is why it's even relevant. This is why I should watch. And then after you've introduced that, you know, you want to teach them what you're planning on teaching them. And then where I find some students fall short is they don't actually show how to do it in real time. So if you're teaching on, like, let's say something like Facebook ads, and you're like, oh, in the tech, showing them this is how you create an ad, you know, maybe do another one yourself as another niche or another industry, so that people know, okay, this is actually how you do it in real time. I feel like that how sometimes isn't necessarily there in lessons. And then after that, maybe say, okay, you do it. Here's the checklist of how to do it. Here's how you're going to get feedback from people in the community or from me on whether you did it right. Because sometimes when you're doing something, you don't have any real feedback on like whether you did it right. And when you don't, students are like, I don't know if I did this right. I guess I did. I'm not sure. And then they stop, you know, if they don't know if they're doing things right. And then I like to close out the lesson by saying, like, in the next lesson, we're going to learn X, Y, Z, you know, just so they get them excited about the future of what's to come. So I kind of like to follow that sort of lesson structure within lessons. But then in the larger course, you know, you have your welcome, you have your big modules. And of course, I like to give a lot of action steps within each lesson. And then, you know, that's kind of how, that's kind of how I would structure it.
So that sounds great. And as you were talking, I was thinking about our course. So when we first launched it with our beta group, we had some really good feedback, positive feedback, as well as some negative feedback around um, understanding the concepts, but not knowing how to implement. And so at our level, because we do it day in, day out, it's easy for us to say, now do this, 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 this. But at a newbie's level, you know, the feedback was, but where do we start? So one thing we brainstormed as a team, and I don't know if you've seen this, we're yet to implement it. We're in the middle of kind of pulling it together. Would be some sort of roadmap where it kind of sits outside of the course. So let's say, for instance, the course is made of 6 modules or big rocks, as you say, with the intro, right, the ending, you know, all of that. But then almost like this roadmap outside, which is, you know, some massive diagram is probably going to end up being, which goes, you know, go from this step to that step. So they can succinctly just see where they are in the bigger picture, which I think is what we were missing. And because ours gets so technical, which is a whole nother issue, we feel like having that big picture view where they can then drill down and go, I'm here, here's big picture, but I'm here, so I'm going to now go into this module. And I still don't understand this module, but now I know where to go and what the next step is. Have you implemented that? Have you seen that work? Have you got any tips for me?
Oh my gosh. You know, it's funny because I don't see that often in online courses, like a big roadmap, but I think it's so helpful because Amy Porterfield does that in her course. Oh, okay. And I was talking to someone yesterday, another course creator, who told me that is their struggle. They cannot create that roadmap in the beginning. Like they have the course, but they struggle with actually making that map for their students. Like, okay, first you're going to go through this lesson and do this, and then you're going to go through this and do this. And I've seen that done really well in Amy Porterfield's course. I think there's also a level of the student needs to kind of really take responsibility and do things, you know, not on their own, but they need to figure out how they want to do things too, because not everyone learns the same. So I'm finding with Amy's roadmap, it's very helpful in just seeing, okay, that's my goal. That's where I'm going to go. I'm going to tick off every single box and make sure I get there. But also I don't do everything exactly as she says it in the roadmap. I follow the order, but I might consume the content a little bit different. Right. And in terms of creating that, I mean, I would say, you know, just make sure to focus, you know, you have your course outline. It would be helpful to take the course or have someone take the course as a student would, to see like what the steps that they do to maybe get them to that result. Because from a high level, it's good to be like, okay, we'll do this, this, and this. And you can test that too to see if people like that, like create an outline for them and a map and see what problems they're coming with, because really is going to depend on the course content and the student and really how they're going through it. So.
And the other thing I think it helps with is, so for instance, in our world, I'm using my example because it's, you know, it's relevant to this, which is, there's a module around optimizing your content. And you'll know this, which is you could optimize your blog content or you could optimize your service pages and product pages, right? Okay. And so what we noticed with our students was they didn't know what to prioritize. So our module would teach them how to optimize their content. So it would teach them how to optimize and do keyword research and optimize their blog content. And it would also, within the module, teach them how to do keyword research for their products or services and also optimize those pages. The problem was they would finish that module and go, so what do I do? How many pages do I do? How many blog posts do I do? And so we're using this roadmap as well as a way to guide them, not only of the steps within the larger approach and the larger roadmap, but also the quantity. And to say, like, you know, in this module, the outcome is to do 1 blog post and maybe 1 service page, then go to the next module and then go through that. So they then go around and do more as they go around, as opposed to just getting stuck on 1 module and not moving through, you know, the 6 or 8. So I'm finding that approach is also going to help solve that problem, which we have feedback of, which was, okay, we get this, but what do we work on? How many pages? What pages do we work on? And we found people we're getting hung up with that. So
yeah. Sometimes when you deliver the content, it's like you need to like get so specific and be like, now do exactly this one thing. After learning all this, just do this one thing, get this done. And then people feel like, okay, I have this one thing that I need to do, and that's it.
Yeah. And to put you on the spot here, what other things, maybe give me one powerful thing that a course creator can do to their course, can apply to their course to make it super successful? And I've not prepped Monique with this question prior to the interview, so I'm putting you on this.
The one thing I would say is focus on your target market. Just give your target market what they need. And the reason is because you have to meet their expectation when they go into the course, because if you don't, they're not going to finish it. They might want a refund. The biggest thing is you have to make sure you're delivering exactly what they want, I would say. Of course, that involves a lot of market research and studying your audience, but focus really on the student and what they want, because it's not necessarily about, oh, what do I want to teach people? It's like, what do people want to know from me? What do they want to learn from me? That's the question, because other than that, you're just teaching and people are like, well, that's great, but that's not really what I came to learn from you. So if you really focus on what your students want to know, I think you will find a lot of success.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess, recent advice coming from me, which is, in order to find out what they want, you have to launch your course with a beta group. We've only got to this stage with a ton of feedback and a ton of ways to improve and change and delete our course and add new things and remove things, only because we've gone through that beta group of a handful of people, and we've closely worked with them. To give you an example, our course started off super technical, just because that's how we run things within the agency and within the team when we're doing it for clients. So the immediate thought was, okay, this is what we do for clients, so this is how we're going to teach our students. But what we realized was the technical modules and anything that just went to OTT on the technical side, we just would end up having a barrage of questions and people getting stuck and people spending weeks trying to set something up when module 3 is ready to go, and that's more important. So and we're solving that. Now we're doing our round 2 version, which is we're removing the technical, we're simplifying it, we're getting to them, we're getting our students to the same destination, just without all the technology or the analytics set up and all of those things they don't necessarily need right now. And we're adding those as potential bonuses, as something you could do later on. However, I wouldn't prioritize this just yet, because you can still get your same results by doing everything else. And that's just going to marginally improve things. So we've taken that stance on a lot of stuff where it applies to get people moving through the course fast. And our first version, people going through course, great feedback, but they were just going through it too slow. So just to add on to your comment, I would say, when you give them what they want, think speed. Think like, how do I get that person to implement what I'm teaching them fast? And that's just something we didn't ask ourselves. And to be honest, I would say we wouldn't have known unless we went through a beta group, because we're so used to running these processes. It's hard for us to see outside of our own box, if you know what I mean.
Yes, absolutely. And there's so much wonderful feedback that comes in, because it's hard. You don't know what your student is going to want. You don't know how they're going to want to learn and absorb. It's so hard to take what you know and really like simplify it for people. It's so tough sometimes. And that quick win, such a great thing, because right in the beginning, people want that engagement. So, and they want to get going. They want to make progress. So great job.
Cool. So look, let's transition the conversation to Amy Portfield. When we first spoke, I was introduced to your strategy on marketing Amy Portfield's course as an affiliate. And I just thought that was so cool and innovative that I said, Monique, we need to talk about this in our interview, because I've not come across this before. So give people the lowdown, how it, you know, the strategy, how it works, your thinking behind it, you know, whether someone can apply it themselves, great. I just love the thinking and the creativity around the approach.
Yeah. So I have never launched anything major before. I've done some email launches, but I've never did a full scale launch. And when I became an affiliate for Amy, I thought, you know what, I'm going to try and just take Amy's advice. And she developed this entire planner for all of her affiliates that basically said, you know, here's when everything launches, here's the steps that I think you should take. She actually even mapped out 3 launch plans. One for the person that wanted to go all in, one that was kind of like, partially in, and then one that was just kind of like, you know, not really there. And so what I did was I took her plan. I knew I wanted to go all in, but I really just wanted to do something that also worked for me. So I really focused on pre-launch materials to start, because I didn't really have like, I had a somewhat, I have a strategy, but it wasn't really locked down. I kind of went week by week. So in the beginning, I started seeding Amy Porterfield to my list by sharing really great podcast episodes by Amy and really introducing my list to Amy Porterfield. And it was only about 350, 400 people or so on my list at the time. So it wasn't a huge list, but I started preceding her content through even before her own pre-launch, because she did a pre-launch all of August and then she launched in September. So it was a long pre-launch. But even in July, I started emailing my list about Amy Porterfield. I started sharing a little bit about her on social. And then I had this idea while I was writing my emails that I wanted to do a Facebook group, a pop-up Facebook group. And this pop-up Facebook group would be solely dedicated to people who were interested in this whole pre-launch that Amy was doing. She had started a Facebook group with thousands of people giving away free content, and I wanted to support people through that. So I created a pop-up Facebook group, which is really just a temporary Facebook group that you do for a limited amount of time. And also had no experience with Facebook groups, so I just kind of created it, and I thought maybe, I don't know, I'd get 5 people in there, and it was really embarrassing, and I was like, I don't know how many people are going to join this. But I told my list about the Facebook group in that pre-launch phase, and I had a couple people here and there join, and then I did some outreach because I really was embarrassed about having like 4 or 5 people in this Facebook group. So I did some outreach to pretty much like all clients, old clients, people on Instagram that were interested that I had been chatting to, and emailing people and just saying, hey, you know, you want to join this free Facebook group? It's, you know, dedicated to Amy, who's launching her course, and, you know, try to make it sound like a pretty cool thing. And I maybe got maybe a handful more. So I think maybe I started out with like 10 people in this Facebook group, and I was like, okay, you know, I thought I was only going to get 5. This is great. And then I had this idea to go into other Facebook groups that allowed promotion. So I'm in a lot of other Facebook groups for entrepreneurs and course creators. And every so often they'll put out a post and say, hey, if you're promoting something, put it in this thread. So I think I just went into about 3 Facebook groups, and in those promo threads on those days, I said, hey, I started a free Facebook group for anyone looking to learn from Amy Porterfield this month. And from there, I think that was what really just grew this pop-up Facebook group that I started. Like, I did that. It was like a focus for 1 week. I really focused on growing the group. And then after that, I was like, okay, I need to move on to other launch materials. And so all of a sudden though, I started getting like 3 to 5 requests per day in the group. And I was like, whoa. I was like, where are these people coming from? I don't know. I think it could have been too, because Amy Porterfield was in the title of the group. It was like learning from Amy Porterfield. So I think when you search Amy Porterfield in Facebook, maybe that group came up. But I got close to 200 people in that group by the end of just promoting it for that month. And like I said, I didn't really promote the group after that first initial week. It kind of just floated on its own, which was really surprising and cool. But that was one of the big things along with my email list for this launch. So I made sure that I was emailing my list every week, and I was supporting this Facebook group. And I was posting elsewhere on social, but I really made those 2 things my focus, because that's where the people already were that were interested in Amy. So I feel like that when I just focused where the people were already interested and trusted me, that really helped, because it was harder to, you know, go on Instagram and try and convince people that were just kind of like passively watching. So I really focused on that.
Sorry, were you quite active within the Facebook group? So what were you sharing in the Facebook group? Also share what you were sharing with your email list. I'm just thinking, you know, some people that be watching this will be looking to promote their own course or their own products.
Oh yeah.
So when you kind of think about seeding pre-launch and getting people engaged and interested, what are you sharing on your email list and Facebook group to create that level of anticipation or excitement?
Well, I will say that Amy made it very easy. She had probably a freebie she was giving away every week. And so all I had to do as the affiliate was to email my list about it. So for the emails, when I would write them, I would write them in my voice, number one, and make sure that it really stayed with who I was as this person who was always emailing my list. And I really just trumped up the benefit of it and how I would use it. And each week I was really sharing to my email list these freebies. So she put out an ultimate course creation starter kit. And then she also, I think she put out this freebie about how to raise money for Digital Course Academy. It was like a breakdown of like how to afford it. And so I was giving that away. And then she was offering all kinds of training inside the Facebook group that she had created. So every week I kind of had an asset to share with my list. And the main thing there was I was just letting them know the benefit of it and how it would solve their pain point as course creators. Luckily for me, I have course creators on my email list. So it was kind of like easy for them to see, oh, how this bridges the gap if I have a problem and you have my solution. And as for the Facebook group, I was posting in there every single day, Monday through Friday. I didn't post on the weekends, but I was posting things that Amy was sharing in the group. So every week she would go live. And what I would do is in the beginning of the week, I would say, hey, are you ready? The next training's coming up that Amy's having. And then she would have the training. I would take notes. And then I would go back to the group and write a recap and say, hey, this is what Amy trained everyone on this week. And it was just a written recap. And then on Fridays, every week, I would go live in the group and say, do you have any questions? And then also recap what Amy was training. So I posted five days a week, but I would say the actual pattern that I followed was Monday, get excited. Wednesday, here's the written recap. And then Friday, let's go live and talk about it.
Right. That's super smart. So, so if you're a course creator or selling a service or a product and you want to launch, you know, you want to start sharing from what you're saying, Monique, you want to start sharing free content. You want to think about some kind of challenges or hurdles that those people are going through, whether it's your product or course solves, or it's a hurdle in getting your course. So one thing you said, which is, she talked about how to raise the cash to pay for her course, which is clearly a stumbling block for many people. So, and she's hitting that head on, which I think is super smart. And then I'm sure those freebies are also related to smaller pain points that that the course solves, a larger pain point, but those smaller pain points are related. So is that the type of thing? And also, is that a good summary from?
Yeah.
And if like, what's the time frame in terms of launching Facebook group to, you know, seeding, getting interest, to actually going for a launch? What does that tend to look like?
Yeah. So I would say you need at least 30 days before your cart opens to create content focusing around solving the pain points that your course solves. What I like to do, and what I will do maybe on the next launch that I learned, was that if you have some questions that your audience has around the problem that you're solving, answer those questions in content 30 days before the launch. And I started pre-seeding Amy because my list, I had never really talked about her. So in July, so 6 weeks out, I was just talking about how she influenced me, how much I really found her inspirational. And then in those 4 weeks, it was really just, here's how we're solving the problem of creating your course. And like I said, Amy already had those laid out, but really I would think the method would be to answer questions that people have related to the problem that you're solving. Even if it's just 4 questions that people have each week, send out something weekly on how you're solving it. I also think it's really helpful to go live in some capacity, because content absorbing it is great, but what I'm going to do for the next launch is I'm also going to make sure that people know that I am going live each week. So what I'm currently doing in my current emails is that I'll say, here's the content. P.S. I'm going live today at 2 o'clock on Facebook. Be sure to join in. And then I'll even a few days later send them the video of the Facebook Live in case they missed it. That's something I'm kind of experimenting with now, but the whole idea is to just make sure you're within those 30 days. And then after the 30 days, what Amy did was she had her webinar, was it her webinar open or sign up? I think her cart open was for 7 days. And then a week before her cart opened, she started promoting her webinar. So it was like pre-launch content. Oh, register for this webinar for a whole week, register for this webinar. And then she had like 5 webinars after that in the span of a week. Obviously, she has a huge audience, so she would need 5 webinars, but I think 2 would probably be fine for your regular course creator, maybe 3. And then so for that whole week, you are doing your webinars, your cart is open for a whole week, and then you close it.
Awesome. So I really like the fact that you also added in your own spin. So you didn't just copy in, her video or whatever and just posted it straight into your group. I guess where Proof Mango comes in, you then wrote up your own version of it, and you explained what the training covered. So I really like the fact that you've taken something successful, you've added your own spin. There's a huge amount of value actually just in getting someone that isn't Amy, who Amy clearly is not going to have time to answer every question, but someone that is very close to Amy as yourself, to handhold people and make sure it's a good fit for them. And I can see why that's such a good fit. And we spoke about your success with the launch. Are you happy to share it on here, just how many people ended up signing up?
Yes. So I want to start by saying that first day that the cart opened, I only got 1 person into DCA. So after all that work, right when the cart opened, I was excited that I got 1 person, but then I was like, wait, am I only going to get 1 person in? So what really helped was those last 2 weeks, right when the webinar opened to right when cart closed. Right when you signed up for the webinar. It really was every day just making sure that I was showing up for people. And I would go to the webinars. I would go to all of Amy's Facebook Lives and interact with people, and then take the conversations off the chat into a private DM. So I would be helpful within the chat, get to know them, and then they would want to go offline and chat. And at the end, I ended up bringing in 10 people to DCA, which was awesome. But I'm telling you, what really helped was that interaction towards the end, because I really just made myself present, and I was like trying to build relationships with all the people who were already on the fence, who were already interested. And it was really just, they had questions about it. So I was basically meeting them in a separate space and explaining, not like pushing DCA and a hard sell, but really just explaining to them what they could expect. And also I had the Facebook group, so I didn't necessarily have to say, buy DCA. I would say, what, if you want more support, why don't you join my Facebook group? And I share a lot of the stuff there. And of course, everything I share there is like my partner link. So it's better to get someone in that Facebook group, so that if they do decide in the Facebook group, oh, I'm going to join Amy, they click on your partner link, and that helps. But it's easier. Having that Facebook group really helped in the end to just push people towards support versus spend $2,000, why don't you just come and see what it's like in the Facebook group. So I really feel like it was a lot of hard work in the beginning, but then also towards the end, it was also a lot of hard work, because I was just really trying to be present and interact with people. And it was really crazy, because I would say I had about 8 people in until like the last hour. And then the last hour, I just had all these people questioning, and I was just like trying to attend to everybody. And then like that last hour, like 2 more people signed up, and I was like, it was crazy. It was crazy, but it can be done. It can be done. Yeah, it really paid off. It really can be done.
So congratulations. And I think that's such a cool concept. Like I said, whether you're looking to do like affiliate marketing as Monique is doing here, or launch your own product or launch your own service, what really hit me when we spoke about this first was the concept behind a pop-up Facebook group.
Right.
Now, I just thought that's such a powerful concept. You could apply that to so many different things, especially where, so I think where there's a lot of friction in buying a product or a service, I think a pop-up Facebook group makes so much sense. People are spending time already on Facebook. They're quite comfortable just joining another group. There's very little effort involved in doing that, as opposed to signing up to a forum online or, one of these other kind of channels or communities. I just love the concept. So I do hope some, people listening to this can apply it to their own business. But let's talk about your business. So we took, you kind of gave us a bit of a spoiler alert earlier on in the interview where you talked about SEO. It's a passion of mine. It's a passion of yours.
Oh yeah.
And for those listening not familiar with the term SEO, search engine optimization, it's all about getting in front of your audience when they're searching for products or services related to your business organically. So in Google, you have the ads right at the top, and then below you've got organic results. So if you're searching for wedding planner in London and you see a map and you see results below the ads, that's SEO. So when you apply SEO to your site, you're trying to get in front of your audience when they're searching for products and services related to your brand right now. It's why I love SEO. It's why you love SEO. How's SEO helped you in your business, and what's your strategy? How do you apply it?
Oh my gosh, I love SEO. It's amazing. It's a long game, but I had, like I said, have more of a writing background. So when I thought about traffic generation, lead generation to my site, I was like, well, I have to focus on writing because that's what I'm really good at. So I took a course on SEO by Julia McCoy. And that's really, I had learned a lot of SEO over the years, but I really never focused on how I would use it to get people to my website and my blog content until I took that course around September of 2018. And I basically just learned that I needed to use keywords that people were searching for and to find my content. And I really needed to make my content really valuable. And that's really just the strategy that I went in with. I was kind of a newbie at keyword research, and it took a lot of experimenting. But really what helps me the most is making sure that first I start with like a content idea, and then I write that, I send it to my email list, kind of just like to get it out. And then I expand upon it in a blog post, and I write the content and make sure that it's really good and valuable and speaks to solutions that my ideal audience is looking for. And then I go in and I do the SEO. And so then I focus on, okay, what keywords would people be searching for to find this content that I've created? And I play around using a tool called Keywords Everywhere. It's a browser extension, and it gives you the search volume of the keywords, key phrases when you type it into Google. So if I have an idea for a blog post, or if I have the blog post already written, what I do is I go and I type in something around that content into Google the way I would search for it. And then it comes up with all these different keywords on the side that I could use, different search volumes. And from there, I kind of find key phrases, like find one key phrase usually, and I'll put that in my title. And then I'll find the secondary key phrases that people use to search, and those are just listed right at Google. Like if you go to Google and you search for something, right at the bottom there's like similar searches. You could use those as your secondary keywords, and I sprinkle those in the blog post. And I usually try and find keywords and key phrases that are under 1,000 search volume, just because I feel like my blog it's growing great, but it's still small and in comparison to the bigger ones. So I try and focus on the smaller key phrases to get the volume that's coming in through there. And I started out in 2018 just by writing these really extensively long, helpful blog posts for about, 3 to 4 months. And then I decided to take a little break, but it was like you need time for SEO to work. It's not like an overnight thing. I would say I started seeing regular volume to my site probably 8 months after I started doing, you know, the really extensive blog posts. And then slowly, like, you know, you go from having nothing to like, oh, I got like 5 to 7 people to my site this week, just randomly. And then I started getting like random opt-ins, like out of nowhere. And I was like, I didn't promote anything this week and I got a couple subscribers. That's weird. Where did they come from? And then I started noticing that my traffic would like float, you know, instead of just like these random spikes, it was kind of like floating and floating. And all that hard work really paid off later because, you know, when COVID happened, people were looking to teach from home online. And my blog is all about, you know, how to make your course better and all of these key phrases of teaching online and online teacher and here and there. And so in March, my traffic just kind of like exploded. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, and then it just kept going up and up and up. So I think oh gosh, I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but like,
do you love SEO?
It like, yeah, it's one of those things where like you do it once really focused for a few weeks. And then if you do it right after a while, it really just, it pays off in really wonderful ways because you're not having to blog every week or promote every week. The people are just finding you.
Yeah.
So
it's compounding, isn't it? Assuming you don't drop from page 1 to page 2 or lower, it's just compounding. That's why I love it as well. It's you create content once, and my approach is generally, you know, I'm creating content that I know my audience needs anyway, or I'm getting sales calls with prospect customers where we're doing their SEO for them or we're creating content for them, but they've got certain questions and certain challenges. So I create content from that, you know, that as a need. You know, recently I did one on, I did a 20-minute video on website design SEO to like talk about our process around designing website with SEO in mind, as well as a blog post on the back of it. And I did that primarily because I know, because we were doing so many website design projects where they needed to be optimized for SEO and search, that I thought, you know what, let me just optimize my time as well, do this piece once, and then it answers all their questions. But when you do that strategically, with the back of your mind, you're going, I'm also going to optimize it for SEO. So if someone searched in YouTube or someone searched in Google, I'm going to do that longer term. But short term, it's going to help people who are in the middle of designing their own site, for instance, in this example.
Yeah.
Help them anyway. So I've already justified it. So that's generally my approach. And then longer term, it's compounding. So as it grows in ranking, to page 1, it's going to get visitors, it's going to start getting opt-ins. I love just getting subscribers without doing anything like you're talking about. It's not something I often talk about, but it's, you know, when you're feeling down, just log into your email marketing campaign, right? Your marketing software, and go, how many subscribers has I got today? And suddenly dopamine hit. It's like, you know, straight in the arm, you know, you're on cloud 9 the next minute. And like you said, you're not doing anything extra. You're simply creating content that your audience wants. What was interesting that you just said, actually, because when we're doing it for clients or ourselves, we do it the other way around, but I'm interested to hear why you do this. You said, I write an email first, and I think this is a cool idea, actually, because I'm thinking why you would do this, but you tell me. You write an email first and you get that out there. And then you write your blog post and you pack it out more. And you put more detail and thought into it. So the reason we do it the other way around is because we create the post, or personally on my site, I'll create the post and then share it with my email list. So I'll ask them to check it out and click on the link, and then, you know, get more visitors and traffic to the site. And so that's important for me. However, I'm also on email lists where I really appreciate just the message in there, you know, and a quick summary. And then I just love staying on email, just reading it and then absorbing it and then leaving it. So, you know, that was the first thing that hit me when you said that. So what's your thought process on that?
Yeah, for me, it's so much easier for me to get content out when I do it via email first, because my email strategy really is, I commit to like 200 words a day to just help solve my audience's problems in some way. And it's just straight content, straight talk, just straight solution. And I write it all out. And maybe it's about 500 words. So when I say 200 words a day, I do 200, 200, 200, and then I refine for the next 2 days or something like that. But it's so much easier for me to just send an email with content that I'm just thinking of that might help them. And it's too much work. It takes me forever to create a really great blog post. And I wasn't able to do that every week. So for me, it was like, if I want to email my list every week, I'm just going to email them the actual content every week. And then I'm going to be repurposing in the background that content and then make it bigger for the people that are coming to my site. And I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, am I selling my email list short because they're not knowing that this other content is out? So I'm like, I have to find some way to kind of like make sure that they know this other like more in-depth content is out. But I feel like the more in-depth content really just helps bring people in more than anything. And so I'm using that to bring people in, and then I'm using the shorter content to keep people in, I guess you could say. So for me, that system this works better. It's easier for me to get something out every week if I just type up something really quick that they can learn in the email. And then of course I'll have call to actions like, oh, book a call, if you want your course reviewed or tested or things like that. Or, like with the affiliate launch, I'll like write a post and I'll be like, oh, here's a link to the freebie or something like that. So sometimes I'll put CTAs, but oftentimes what I'll do too is at the end of the email is I'll say, hit reply and let me know what you think about this. Because a lot of times I just want to build those conversations back and forth with my subscribers. It's great if they sign up for my service, of course, and click on my links, but it's really great when they engage with you because then they trust you and you're in that conversation with them. And that's what I like to do as one of my CTAs. But yeah, that's kind of like my thought process around that.
That's really cool. Do you know what your engagement rates are? So do you know what your open rates are on average for email?
I would say my open rates hover between 20 and 25%. And I don't know the percentage, but I get about 15 to 18 clicks per email. I see that seems to be pretty steady. I have just a little over 400 people on my list at the moment.
Okay.
So
that sounds pretty decent. The 20-25% is a good number. I was expecting it to be a good number. Just the way you've described how you kind of take care of your list and you help them. So amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I've learned a lot. I hope the people that are watching this or listening to this have learned a lot. Where can people find more about you, Monique?
I am at Proof Mango everywhere. So you can go to proofmango.com. And then on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, I am at Proof Mango.
And I love mangoes.